Welcome to the Lab to Cart podcast, where we explore the intersection of AI and the future of shopping. Our goal is to educate and inspire listeners about the potential of AI in the e-commerce, retail, and D2C sectors. I'm your host, Jimmy Slagle, and let's not wait and get into the podcast. All right, what's going on, everyone? I am joined by Parker Burr. Parker, do you want to start by just giving a quick intro to who you are?
Sure. What's up, Jimmy? I'm Parker. 30 years old. About 12 years ago, wet my beak in this path of like entrepreneurship and consumer goods. Started hustling hats at the hallways in high school and quickly grew that into like a fully head to toe sports uniforms business, and I grew all through college. From there, I kind of parlayed that into a clothing brand called Feet, F-E-A-T, and we built that and grew that in the athleisure category, kind of in the Shopify ecosystem for the last 10, 12 years. So we ran that business for a long time, and now kind of turning the page to a new chapter. That's the shortest version I can give you, I think.
I love it. I love it. And just for everyone to be in the loop, what is that next chapter? Because I've checked out what the company is a couple times, and I mean, this is your time to break, because I think it's a really cool idea of where the future of shopping is going to go.
Cool. Yeah. The main focus right now is Flagship. Flagship basically makes it super easy for anyone with a following. So don't just think your classic influencer, but think about the people that have a Facebook group for dog lovers that has 500,000 people in it, and all they do is talk about dogs, right? Like, how does that person monetize that group? As an example, they turn to Flagship. They come to Flagship, they can create an online store in about 30 seconds. So they copy and paste a URL to their social media or a blog or that group, and then our machine basically just builds them an online store and starts populating and suggesting brands back to them. So it's a truly like magical experience on the creator side. And then what Flagship does is plug in mostly Shopify brands into that system to enable those creators and those people following to then sell those goods.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant. I think it's the first idea where I've seen like the concept of, digital retail, if you will, make sense, to where instead of it being a shop where everyone goes to, it's almost reversed. Everyone has their own store of what they like, the products they like, and then people can see what everyone else is shopping and all that good stuff. So I love it. But I think with that, you're very much so on the forefront of technology, and AI has become this thing that everyone in the world of e-commerce and direct to consumer, and I mean even retail for that matter, has been talking about. So just where it stands today, do you think that AI is underhyped, overhyped, just right? Walk me through kind of what, from your perspective of what you've seen, where do we stand with AI?
Oh man, I mean, there's been so many. I think we're just getting going. Like, I think right now on social media, you see the hype around it, like the over exaggerated, I turned five grand into $1 million in 24 hours using AI. It's like those are the stories that just make headlines, and that's fine. But like behind the scenes, there's real businesses being built. And I always think of like AI as supercharging a business, not like I don't believe it's going to be like the sole business, but it's like supercharging a business that is still ultimately made up of people and products and processes and services. But like AI to me right now is the supercharger. That's kind of what we're doing at Flagship. Like not the whole system isn't built with AI. That's just a big part of it. It's like we have machine learning to help us better surface brands to creators and better surface creators to brands and have that matching. Like, that's the perfect example. Whenever I'm talking to brands, I'm like, how funny is it that we live in a world today and for the last 10 years that if you have an incredible brand and you want to go work with creators, you have to, maybe you join a creator platform and then it's like, we have 1 million creators and you have to go manually search and filter. Like, why are we manually searching and having channel managers like navigate this? Like that data exists. Like what a perfect application for machine learning. I speak in layman terms because I'm not a technical person, but I understand and can appreciate what AI can do for that situation. Those hours of a junior channel manager reaching out and trying to facilitate giftings and things like that, like that shouldn't exist. We should stop guessing and we should just connect you with the best creators for your brand. And it should just be that easy because that data exists.
Yeah, totally. Funny enough, we actually had a UGC marketplace where we were trying to use AI to connect brands to creators. Working with creators is very interesting, as I'm sure you are aware of too. But yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it's the idea of how can we help AI just streamline all the different processes and just mundane tasks that we have to do. With that, do you see AI impacting maybe how many employees are truly required at a startup? Like, do you think it's going to help people become more lean, or what do you think the dynamic of just what the team could look like because of AI in the future for e-commerce and anyone in the online shopping world?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think of the example I just gave with Flagship as an example, like before, as a brand owner, we would have a channel manager that would spend all day reaching out to creators, all day on social media platforms, reaching out, hey, Jimmy, I want to gift you this, I want to gift you that. Like, can we work together? Can we launch a campaign? Right? We're trying to find the right people. Um, that's pretty funny and pretty inefficient. Like we could probably have, I mean, we can process like infinitely more data than a human can, like than a junior level human saying, oh, which brand should I partner with, or which creator should I partner with? So I think it's just changing it. It's just changing it, and where we had inefficient human work before, like we can replace that and have that human then go focus on something else, right? Like rather than like that same human for the channel manager, instead of spending time searching, they can spend time on the relationship with the creators they're supposed to be matched with, right? So like all that search energy can now be focused on like true relationships with these creators. And I think like that is where like, is it man or machine? Like machine has great applications, man has great applications. And I think that's like the best example I can think of.
Yeah, totally. Where do you kind of see, especially when it comes to like again the world of e-commerce, where there's always going to need to be that human element, and so where do you think humans are always going to reign when it comes to the process of where the world is going?
Oh man. I mean, it's so I don't know. My mind goes to AI when it's like processing massive amounts of data, at scale and helping us make decisions or more accurate predictions or whatever. Like that's where my mind goes in terms of machine. And then like at the end of the day, humans still like working with humans, buying from humans, like, like there's moments that we just want immediate answers, and that's great. Like put a machine on it. But like there's also moments where like help me like guide me to certain things. Like there's still value in human interaction. So as much as I love and buy into, so much, so much of this future in this industry being built on the backs of AI machine learning, like there's still going to be human elements. Specifically, I don't know. There's a zillion examples. Like we got really into pickleball, of course, in the last couple of years, and this local shop. Like when you get into pickleball, you're like, what paddle should I buy, right? So like you could build a survey or like a machine that's going to tell you what paddle you should buy based on all these things, and like that's fine. It's just not a personal relationship. We went to a local shop in Cardiff, California. You pay them $20 a week and you try unlimited paddles. And you could switch every single day. And then at the end, whenever in the future you actually want to buy a paddle, all of your $20 a week goes towards a credit to buy your paddle. So I'm just like, a machine can't really replace that, right? And along the way, guys giving you feedback. Did you like how it did this? How it did that? Like I value that human connection, and that made me realize like, whoa, like I still appreciate the local retailer for certain applications, and I also still appreciate a human, like so I think it's just forcing us to choose like where do we want a human, where do we want a machine, where are we okay with that? Where are we okay with the local neighborhood retailer still? Like there's still an application, and like that one to me stood out more than anything I've seen recently where I was like, oh, like I order everything online. I bought my house online, I bought a car online, buy everything online. But in that application, I was like, this is the best solution for it, is this local old shop that's been there for 50 years. And that blew my mind. So
Yeah,
I think
I
there's
love.
limitless like examples of that.
Yeah, totally.
And
I
it
mean,
kind of highlights like what should be a certain way. Like there's things that we want immediate answers to, and there's other things that we want like personal guidance and a human. Um, so I think it just gets better.
yeah, I agree. You know, I've been thinking about this a lot. So my dad is not a technical person at all. Like I have to help him set up his Apple Watch and all of that good stuff. And what he is phenomenal at is those just he's really good at building personal relationships. He's been in business development and sales his whole life, and he goes way out of his way to just like make people know that he values them. And I was always worried, the past 3, 4, 5 years of like, oh, is my dad's job going to get replaced or whatever? But then with AI, I mean, I think it's almost the opposite of when you have that level of human touch. It's like that's almost the highest level of job security that you can have because there's no way AI is ever going to be able to replace, showing up in front of someone's door with 2 tickets to an NBA game or something like that,
Yeah, yeah.
and just adding that personal
But I
touch.
mean, it almost exaggerates how special that is, right? Like it highlights these moments of like where things should or shouldn't exist. I don't know how to say it better than that, but it literally showed, like before you said, oh, he might lose it and be replaced, but instead it like highlighted it and made it more valuable. There's so many instances of that, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's
Yeah,
what's beautiful is the AI is going to help us get the best of both worlds, where you don't have to do
exactly.
the tasks that are annoying. You just get to
Yes.
focus on more of those creative tasks, which
Yeah.
is what I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
When it comes to e-commerce, are there any applications that you have seen recently outside of obviously the one of sourcing the creators and being able to handle the mundane tasks of
Sure.
that part? Are there any others that you've even seen, whether it be on Twitter or Product Hunt or any others that might still be in beta, but you're like, holy cow, if they can pull that off, that's going to be nuts.
Yeah, I mean, one comes to mind. Nathan Resnick, good friend of mine. He's building caffeinated CX. Pretty interesting. Haven't used it personally yet, but been following him as he builds it. And Nate is one of those guys that builds really fast. He also builds in public, so you can kind of follow the journey. Um, Pretty interesting what he's doing. He's building an AI layer for customer service, basically to speed up everything that's going on. Um, and it seems to be working. Like as I follow his updates, I think that's a great application. Like, naturally AI for customer service makes a lot of sense to me. There's a lot of tasks that like you just don't need a human for. Again, it's going to highlight the ones that you do need a human for and be able to give more human energy to that, and then put machine on the rest. So I think that's pretty interesting. Outside of that, like I still think it's the industry is like hysterically outdated still. Like man, like even beyond AI, like Shopify just rolled out like native bundle functionality. I was like, bundle functionality? Like, really? That was an update that you had at your annual conference? Like, oh, bundles that we've been trying to do for 10 years with all these other apps. What are we... So it's interesting, like as much as this stuff moves slow, sometimes I look around, or as much as this moves fast, sometimes I look around and think, wow, this moves pretty slow. Like, I think why think about how crazy this is. You and I go to a website and we see the same thing.
Yeah.
Like that to me is hysterically outdated.
Yeah.
You're a different person with different motivators. Why are we not catering to you? You know, I might be price sensitive and you might not give a shit, right? And that's just pricing, but like you might you might consume images better and I might consume text better. Like we're not actually delivering hyper personalized experiences. And if you go to like the core of what makes e-commerce special versus a traditional retail store, you walk in a retail store, like I can't really deliver a different experience to you, Jimmy, than you can to the next guy. But in ecom, you can. Like we could have a zillion versions of everything running at all times. And the only example of this that I can think of is like airlines. Like you and I shop for the same flight, like we're going to pay different prices.
Yeah.
That's been the norm. It's not really the norm to have, dynamic experiences across e-commerce. And I'm not just talking about pricing, but like every other element. So I've always
Interesting.
thought that that's pretty funny, right? Like why is that not more dynamic? But then you have the whole like, well, how would you deliver like based off of what data would you deliver those experiences? And I think that's where like we're kind of chopped at the knees right now with data being restricted. How are we going to cater dynamic experiences at scale that are actually impactful? Um, that's kind of interesting. Like, man, we had all this data for the most data we've ever had, and then it was like, nope, cut off. So, um, like, those are some of the thoughts that come through my head every day.
I know, and now is actually going to be a follow-up question is how do you I mean, do you think the shopping experience because of all the data privacy and even potentially cookies being eliminated, like do you think that the shopping experience is going to look different in the future just because or maybe not as effective as it could be because it's going to be harder and harder to know who actually is coming to your site or not?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I don't know about you, but like my personal experience, my ad experience has gone down as a consumer over the past couple of years with all these restrictions. Like, I get advertised bras and diamond necklaces and stuff. It's like that didn't happen. If you remember, like just a few years ago, it was like, man, I was just thinking this and now I got that ad. Like, when's the last time you had that experience? Like, you're just not having that experience at the same level. Um, so I think like for a lot of the platforms, it gives them more inventory to sell. Like, like they just sell more ads in general to make up for that. But I think ad quality has gone down um, in the short term. I don't know. I think it's a technical question to understand like what it looks like in the future. I realize that that one's probably above my pay grade and understanding of technical, the the back end of all of this.
Totally. No,
So yeah,
I agree 100%. I mean, even what Triple Whale and Northbeam and the attribution platforms are doing, I mean, I think is really interesting. And I've seen a couple adaptive and rebuy are
yeah,
two tools that I think focus on that hyper or at least product personalization now. And I think eventually we will be able to get to the point at which the hero image is different when I go on versus when you go on and all that. So it is going to be interesting to see how the world of shopping unfolds over the next couple years with all the AI tools, but then on the other side, the data restrictions. So, Parker, I got another question for you. How do you learn about AI tools that are coming up? Do you recommend whether it be any specific people or just places to be at, especially in the world of e-commerce, to see what is available? If you were to tell someone like your parents, like, hey, here's how you just got to start figuring out what's happening in the world of AI, are there any
yeah.
specific places that you would recommend them go to?
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for this, and this goes beyond AI. When I left Feet last year, I had no clue what I wanted to do next. So I left last like August. I took a couple months of doing nothing, and I was like, man, like I felt like I was starting over. Where the heck do you start with something like that? That's actually how we met Jimmy. What I did was, uh, I said, okay, every day I'm going to talk to people that are a little bit outside my normal world. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to have a free HubSpot account and just take notes as I talk to them. I'm going to have no agenda. So if you remember when we first connected, like I wasn't like, Jimmy, hire me, or like, let me invest in your company. Like there was no ask. It was just like, Jimmy, you're working on something cool. I'd love to meet you, you know? I
Yep.
did that every day for maybe 2 months, something like that, a month and a half, 2 months, two, three people, two, three, four, five people a day. And I took notes on those. And then naturally in those conversations, I started to follow, like take the notes, review them, and then follow my interests. So, oh, Jimmy's in AI. That's kind of interesting to me. Jimmy, do you know anyone else in AI? And like I slowly just kept doing that. And just, you know, all this is kind of on the back of LinkedIn.
Mm,
That was my platform. I don't speak Twitter. I never have. The other platforms like don't seem to be that exciting to me. So all of that was in the back of LinkedIn. And through that, I was able to like just amplify my like contacts and like the people I know working on cool things. I was able to like explore my interests again. Like AI was one of those topics that came up. Got connected to you, ended up working with the guys at Flagship because that's how I actually met Yusuf. Someone said you should talk to my friend Yusuf. He's starting this company called Flagship. We went down that path. Like it was because I was putting in that effort. So to answer your question, I would say, one, do you really want to like is AI the topic you want to learn about? Um, if it's not AI, like what is it? I'm so passionate about this. If you really want to learn about something, like we live in a world where there's unlimited resources out there. It's really just up to you to like come up with a plan to figure out how to consume all that information and put yourself in conversations to learn more. So if AI is the thing, like start there. Start with one person that's kind of interested or associated with that industry, and just keep going and dig in. Like it's the most exciting time where thinking back to my the very beginning of my career, to find my factory for my first clothing company was like the most painful process. There was no like Import Yeti or all these websites where you could just like look this stuff up. That's not common knowledge. So like I had to like dig through the internet, and eventually it's like some guy knows a guy knows a guy, and it's like that same thinking and methodology that you can take to like anything you want to learn today. And if AI is it, like start there. Start talk to one person, just keep going. Like the people want to tell you about what they're working on. Ask them about it.
yeah. No, that's so good. That's so good. I mean, and on top of that, you just continue to build your network too. And like you said, you never know who one person might know who could connect you to someone, and that's how you figure out what your next job's going to be, next startup's going to be, anything like that. So yeah, I think that's a brilliant strategy. Would you say that AI is going to be a net positive for the world of e-commerce? And do you have any ethical concerns about where we could be heading within this space, especially when it comes to all the privacy stuff?
Yeah. The privacy thing is interesting. Like, again, I have to speak in layman's terms because I don't have a deep technical understanding of how everything works. So, at a high level, to me, I'm like, ooh, interesting. Like, do I really care if Facebook has all my information? Like, no, I've been giving to them for 10 years. I have no idea what they do with it. I'll never understand what they do with it, right? Google's any of the platforms. Like, I think it's hysterical that people all of a sudden are like, you can't have my information. I'm like, really? Like, why? Everyone has your information. Like, you buy a house, like you're listed in public records, you're added to all these systems, your information's sold 100 times Sunday. Like, what's the issue here? So that one doesn't bother me as much. Like, I think like as long as there's controls, we probably have to have like this is probably more of like a government question, to then like have some parameters, like have some guidelines around these companies and stuff. But like that is so high level for me that I can admit, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Naively, I would say I don't know what happens there. I trust that there's people in place to handle it, not my area of expertise. I think overall, though, it's going to be a total net positive. Like we're just going to get more personalized experiences. Um, not the privacy, but AI, the application of AI, like in the e-commerce ecosystem. I think there's going to be less waste. I think there's a tremendous amount of waste. So think about how like on the logistics side, how AI could help eliminate that waste. Like I had an idea yesterday where I was like, man, what if I just started a company that its sole mission was to eliminate waste, right? What would you do? Like there's so many ways you could do it. Like I'm not talking about bins on the street. That's one application. But like what else is there? That's like supply chain waste. Like just think about how humans in general have so much waste in this world. What if you just started a company with just such a big mission and no actual what, but you just had a really strong why. We have too much waste. I'm going to bring together the most brilliant minds to eliminate waste. Like that's pretty interesting to me. So I think like I think there's applications like that AI are just like that we don't know. Like that has such a strong why. So then like if someone like you, if I came to you and said, Jimmy, I'm starting a company, our mission is to eliminate waste. Like, can you think of anything? You'd probably be like, huh, like yeah, there's a lot of applications here, like that we could do. Like so I think like for the first time in a long time, it almost feels like wide open. Like, like the e-commerce formula was so defined. Everyone kind of knew the game for the last 10 years. You're in it, nudging elbows with everyone. But now it feels like wide open with what you can build again. It feels like a new era. So I think overall net positive, like there's unlimited things that can be built. Um, I feel like this is just the beginning of it. So it's
Yeah.
exciting and positive for me.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I think that's the cool thing is the barriers to entry to have being able to start your own company, especially in the e-commerce world, are only going to go down. However, that means that the execution of everything is going to have to increase if you want to make it. And AI isn't at the point yet where it can just do everything for you. It can't just build you a really effective website. It can't just, tell you what products are going to sell the most. And so there's always going to be that level of execution that's needed. But I think that's probably a good thing for humanity to have to rely on still.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about this. Like, are you going to edit this podcast with AI probably,
Yeah.
right? How incredible is that? Like last week, I used the same platform because I said to Yusuf about Flagship. I was like, dude, we have like incredible things we need to tell the world we're working on. Let's just start with podcast. And then like, think about how efficient this is compared to the way we used to have to make content, right? Like there would be cameras and all this shit and like editing hours and like teams and blah, blah. And it's like, now we'll record this one long form video, right? You'll take it. Some AI will automatically scrape the important, interesting parts. It will cut it down. Then you can make your little fine-tuned edits. And then from this one piece of content, we probably have like 100 pieces of content. Um, and that was done probably 1,000 times more efficiently than any previous option.
Yeah.
Um, so if you think about what that actually means, not just for us, but like think about the how much faster information is going to be communicated and available. Like it's, I can't even wrap my head around how much information there can be. Like you have expertise, now you're creating content. Now you have 100 times more content than you used to be able to have. Like, whoa, how am I going to digest all this stuff? So I think it's pretty interesting. Like it's
Yeah.
infinite information. Um, yeah, infinite information scaling like,
Yeah.
exponentially. It's wild.
It's going to be nuts. And at the same time, I mean, that's why it's so important to stay up to date with AI because once it crosses over just the early adopters to almost the mass audience, then you're going to have to increase your game and be able to make something even better because it's just going to look like all the rest. And so
Yeah.
if you can jump on AI early, you're going to be able to take advantage of it looking better than what most people can do, and you also don't have to put in the work of all the editing and all of that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Think, right? Like this example, edit a podcast just 3 years ago, how brutal it was.
yeah,
Like, are you kidding me? Compared to what we can do now, it's so
yeah.
cool. Automatically put captions here, put a little emoji right here. Like it would just do all these things. And it's good too. And it's great content.
I know, I know. It's exciting. So, Parker, I got another question for you. If there was one tool, and you don't have to speak on technical terms at all, ever. This is just hypothetical. If there was one tool that you think would really change the e-commerce world, that AI would be able to provide, what do you think that tool would look like, or where do you think the biggest problem is within the e-commerce world,
Yeah.
still today?
The biggest problem is so clearly customer acquisition. I can build an incredible product. We have great ideas. Like we have brilliant designers and product developers and all these things out there in the world. But where do I get customers consistently, predictably, and at scale, right? So you have a couple of people trying to solve this. You have the triple whales and the North Beams trying to get you better data to run your ads, right? Then you have people like Flagship trying to build an entirely new channel that didn't exist before, right? Like there was creators, there was paid social, but like you couldn't spend into creators in the same way that you would spend into paid social. So, I mean, kind of jumping around like in a symphony of thoughts, but
Yeah,
like I, I mean, I think you know the biggest glaring thing is ecom brands need to figure out where to acquire customers consistently, predictably, and at scale.
yeah,
That's really hard. So how do you do that? You get better data, you get more data, you try to solve the data problem, which like, oh man, that's so technical and over my head. I don't know how anyone can solve that. And I think, if you do solve that, you're more valuable. You're as valuable as like Facebook or something. Like it's just insane. So that's a massive problem is what are we going to do about data going forward? What data will be available? Like, can we still run such tailored campaigns and experiences? I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. And then on the other side is like, you know, whether it's platforms like Flagship that are going to connect you and build entirely new channels for you in the same way that like think about if you were early with Facebook ads in 2012. Like I think there's new channels that are evolving quietly right now, like Flagship, that are going to unlock a channel that didn't exist before. There was like creators before, but like you couldn't spend into them. Like if you spent $1,000, you couldn't go back and spend $10,000. It just doesn't really work like that. So I think there's new channels popping up, and like a lot of them are kind of stealth right now, but um, I don't
yeah.
know, they're in the
No,
works.
I agree. And again, just reiterating my point is that's why just stay in the loop with all things AI. Because if you can be one of the first brands to utilize Flagship, then you're going to have the supply and demand issue where there's
Yeah,
way less probably brands on than creators, or vice versa, to where it's just going to come out to be your benefit. And you'll be able to acquire customers in a much more affordable way. Same with how Facebook started back in
yeah,
2012.
exactly.
Test everything out and just see what works for your brand, because there is going to be a winner in this space that comes
And
out
that's
in the next couple of years.
so so far this year, I think I've onboarded about 170 brands on the Flagship. So I've had this incredible exposure to all these brands that are doing different things. Small brands that are doing a couple hundred grand a year, big brands that are doing 150 million a year, Rothy's, which is doing much more than that. Like the whole spectrum, like the whole gamut of size for these brands. And what's been fascinating is seeing like I used to think that big brands move slowly and small brands move quickly, and that's the difference. But what I'm realizing is that's just not the case. Like I had a brand last week. I'm really close with the founder. I've known him forever, and I always wondered why he was able to be so successful. Like I had my ideas, but it became really clear to me after I worked with him over the last couple of weeks. He tests new channels faster than anyone else will, and he's a big brand doing over 100 million bucks a year. He tests new channels all the time. He's down to try it. He'll put good people on it. He'll really give it a shot. He'll really go all in. The brands that aren't successful and aren't growing aren't testing like that. Maybe they finally go, okay, we'll get the app, we'll try it, and they don't really try it. They don't really push it. Like it's on them to be successful. That's the difference that I've seen. These people try new channels and then dominate, and either works and explodes in the best way possible, or just doesn't go anywhere. And when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's the difference between like these mega successful brands and like the other guys.
No, that's so good. That's so good. Last question for you, Parker. It'll just be a nice, easy softball. Is there just anything that you want other people to know about the world of AI or the world of e-commerce, or just your one kind of big recommendation that you see unfolding over the next couple years that you think the audience should take away?
My big recommendation is find a platform like a LinkedIn or a Twitter where these communities are, join them. If you're building something in the space, there's all these little communities popping up on social media and Slack, and like join them and join the conversation and read and consume important content. It's so easy to consume mindless content on social media today. If you just shift all that effort that you're putting into consuming that mindless content into useful content, you'll be brilliant. You'll have all this new information, this incredible network. It's just like be super conscious of how much time you let go to doom scrolling about useless stuff that you don't care about just to have a little laugh or a dopamine hit. Like go read. Like I when I'm on my phone, like I really try to be like reading. It's like modern day reading. I'm like learning about new stuff from people I follow and stuff versus passively like falling into a scroll of reels or something. So careful who you follow, consume good content. There's so much out there, and then yeah, that'd be my biggest hit.
I love it. I love it. That's good stuff. Well, Parker, always appreciate you. Thank you for coming on, and looking forward to seeing this thing live.
Yeah, excited to see these AI edits.
Heck yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you.